Welcome back to the Catnip Podcast. My name is Grace and today is Friday, April 6th. This is a podcast about knitting and things that I'm loving and baking and books and cats, but specifically knitting because that is what I love to do the most. Last week was a little bit different. There was not as much knitting content, but that was because my mom and my sister were with me, which was super exciting, and I really enjoyed having them on the podcast with me, and I hope you enjoyed that as well. We shared some of our favorite things that we're enjoying at the moment, so if you haven't seen that, you can go back and watch that. But if not, there's this upcoming episode, which you're just about to watch. So, like always, there's all my various social medias if you'd like to go follow me. There's Instagram, Facebook, Ravelry, and Twitter. I am most active on Instagram by far. Liking and posting and commenting. I just love Instagram. It is such a wonderful platform where we can share our creativity and pictures and stuff. So I really enjoy Instagram. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, that would be wonderful. That'll be linked down below, or if you're on my blog, that'll also be linked down below. So I have a lot of knitting to talk about today. I also have a tasty little baked good that I want to tell you about because I am super excited about it. So without further ado, why don't you go get something tasty to drink? I have tea today in a very large mug because that's how you do things sometimes. Tea is tea regardless of the size of the mug, but sometimes you just need a bigger mug than normal. So we're going big today. Also, it's just so cute because it's pink and it's got gold little heart things on it, or flowers, I don't know. It's from Target. They might still have it. I got it last year around this time, I think, so Target has good mugs. Anyway, that was a tangent. If you'd like to go get something tasty to drink or something to snack on or something to craft while we discuss all the crafty goodness that I'm about to share with you, and you can come back and join me for some crafty chat. So first off, I have something that is not like super exciting. I haven't made oodles and oodles of progress, but I have made some progress since I last showed it to you, which was 2 weeks ago because obviously last week was the favorites video. This is my Lady Mademoiselle Dandelion cardigan by along.avec.anna. And she has a wonderful blog and a wonderful podcast, which I have not had the time to watch yet, which I'm very sad about the fact, but she has a podcast in French, and which is super cool. And then recently she uploaded a podcast episode in English as well. So if you don't speak French or if you don't know anything about French, there is the English option, or if you don't speak French at all, you can also turn on YouTube subtitles, which are not always perfect, but it's better than nothing. So that enables you to watch knitting podcasts in other languages. And like I said, obviously the YouTube subtitles are not always correct, but it's better than nothing. Fun fact, I have a Snapchat. So anyway, this is what I've been working on. If you remember 2 weeks ago, I had about 2 of these little repeats of the little dandelions, and now I have many more. 1, 2. I'm almost through my 3rd pattern repeat, so it's very slow going, but you know what? It's creating a beautiful, beautiful fabric, and I love it. And isn't it pretty in this yarn? Because I think it is gorgeous. It is so beautiful. This is Cascade 220 Fingering in the Indigo Frost Heather colorway. Please focus. There we go. Like, that's just such a beautiful color. It's such a springy color, but also I would love wearing this color in the winter as well. And I'll probably do that. Also, side note, because we like talking about the weather on this podcast if you are new, I live in Texas. Texas weather is usually pretty hot. Most of the year we very rarely have a winter that spans longer than maybe 3 months. But the high tomorrow on Saturday, April 7th, is 67, which is pretty cold. So that is really exciting. I get to bring out the knitwear again, which I was not expecting to do. That is not a normal thing for April in Texas. So yay, that is so exciting. You probably didn't really care to know that, but it is something that I'm very excited about and thought that I would share with you guys because that's what I do on this podcast. Fun fact. So yes, I am really loving this. It is a bottom-up sweater, so I have already knit one of the sleeves, and my plan is, in order to avoid the whole second sleeve syndrome, which I have fallen prey to before, I knit one sleeve, and I'm now knitting the body, and I will eventually cast on the sleeve, the second sleeve, once I finish with the body. Or, what I'm also thinking about is casting on the second sleeve and just having it as like movie theater knitting, or just knitting that I don't have to pay attention to, because that would knock it out really quickly. So I might do that. I would also have to wind up another skein, which I haven't done yet, but that is on my to-do list of things to do after I'm done recording this. So yes, that is my thought process. Yes, this is the Lady Mademoiselle Dandelion cardigan by along.avec.anna. I highly recommend it. It is super easy, but it's also kind of like, oh, well, I'll learn something new along the way, kind of like I did with the JC cardigan, which, by the way, is now available to buy the pattern on Ravelry. I will link that in the show notes for sure. The pattern is up. So if you would like to knit one yourself, I highly, highly recommend it. It is definitely one of my most favorite sweaters of all time, I think, that I have made. And it's just a really good staple cardigan, so I highly, highly recommend that. How many times can I say highly, highly recommend? It's a great sweater. The pattern is wonderful. Anything that Isabel has written, I am a huge fan of, and I would like to knit all of her things. So you should definitely go check it out. If you haven't seen my project page for that, I posted Instagram pictures from my project page on my Instagram. That was a bit redundant, but I have pictures on my Instagram that are from my project page, so if you'd like to see more higher quality pictures, you can go check out my Instagram and see what the JC cardigan looks like on. Yeah. So yes, I think this will be very similar to the JC cardigan in the fact that I will want to wear it all the time. The fit is very similar. It is like a button-down cardigan, and it's just super comfy and very, very clean lines, very classic looking, and classy. It's classic and classy. So I'm very excited about finishing this and being able to wear it. Although I'm not anywhere close to being finished with it, I am enjoying knitting it, so it's very fun. 20 minutes trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, because it said to use color 4. This dark gray is my color 4. I checked my Ravelry page, I checked my Instagram, I checked places I had posted about it, I checked show notes, I checked everything. And I was like, okay, but it doesn't look this way in her picture. These two stripes, both these dark stripes, were not the same in her picture, in Hohi's picture. Does that make sense? Like, this stripe right there, this stripe and this stripe were not the same color on hers. And so I was like, there has to be something wrong, but I'm using color 4 and this is color 4, so I really don't know what the problem is. So like I said, I spent a good long time trying to figure out what I did wrong. Finally figured it out. And I'm now going to tell you. So dumb. I mean, it really doesn't matter because, like, I think it looks nice, but my problem was this color should have been here and this color should have been here. So I mixed up colors 3 and 4 and put them in the wrong spot. Which you then might be wondering, because there's the other side that is exactly the same that I'm going to soon attach together. I hope you made the mistake on the other side, which thankfully, in this case I'm thankful I made this mistake, I did. So I messed up on both sides. the colors are in the wrong spot, but thankfully they do match, so that is all that really matters, because goodness gracious, I am not ripping back that far. Also because this is twisted ribbing, and like I've said in the past, purling to the back loop is a pain in the butt. So, we're just gonna live with it, and I actually kind of like it, now that I'm looking at it closer. Yesterday when I was working on it and I figured that out, I was like, oh no. Why did I do that? Why was I not paying attention? Also, like, I understand that mixing up colors, number colors, is a very easy thing to do, but I should have been paying more attention. It's all my own fault. But that's okay. We're going to have a make it work moment. Thank you, Tim Gunn. And it really doesn't look that bad. It's just, I was confused as to why there were two dark gray stripes close to each other. But there really shouldn't be. This dark gray should be that orangey color, and they should just be switched. But it's really not that big a deal. Like I said, it'll be fine. It doesn't change the pattern. The pattern will look just as cool. And it'll be uniquely my own because I made this mistake. Starting point. Once I get it done. The thing is, I have to get it done first in order to wear it. So, that is the goal. This is the other side that I haven't been working on. I have to do this lace section on this side, and then this very large dark gray stripe on this side as well. But this dark gray stripe is very big, and obviously I just started it, so. And then I get to connect them together, which I think will not take very long, and that is just closing things together so it all connects and makes a big long wrap, and I'm so excited. And yes, so once I cast this off, I feel like as a reward I should cast on multiple things because I've had this on the needles for so long. But I know that would be a bad idea. But deep down inside I really just want to cast on all the things. But I won't. I do have one thing that I want to cast on, which I'm about to tell you about. I did talk about it in last week's episode, or all three of us talked about it, but I want to talk about it in more detail this week, or just remind you of the details. So yes, that is my thing to cast on once I finish this thing. It's gonna get done. It really will get done. But that's okay. It'll be fine. It's very lightweight. I can potentially use it. Actually, I can definitely use it in the summer. I can definitely use it in the spring. And obviously the fall and winter are nowhere near to being now, because that wording made sense. And the thing that I want to cast on is definitely a woolly object, so there's no like, I have to knit it now so I can use it now. That is not the case. Would I like to cast something on because I like casting things on? Yes. But I know that wouldn't be good. So, we're gonna do something hard, and we're gonna try and finish something really big before we cast on something else. Like a good knitter. We're doing my best. Doing my best. I know it really wouldn't matter if I casted something else on. I think it would be totally fine, but I would feel probably better about myself if I did not. So, I feel like that's kind of going against me saying that what makes you happy, but see, I know finishing this would make me happy, so that is my mentality, my goal. My theme of finishing The Starting Point by Joji Locatelli. All my yarns are listed on my Ravelry page. I'm just now remembering I haven't mentioned the yarns. I have been over them a bazillion times because this has been on the needles for a bazillion podcast episodes. The Ravelry page will be linked in the show notes, so if you'd like to go check those out, see the information there, you can definitely do that. Or you could also search on my blog for Starting Point, and I'm sure all the episodes that I talked about it would pop up. So if you want to do that, you can definitely do that. It's living in my fringe field bag with all my decorative pins. So there's some are missing because I got a pair of overalls. I got 2 pairs of overalls over the weekend, which is super exciting. I love overalls. They're the comfiest things ever, or dungarees if you like to call them that instead. So I put some of my favorite pins from here on my overalls or my dungarees, so that's been very fun. But I want to get more. I want to expand my pin collection because that's fun. So yes, fun fact. Okay. So the thing that I really want to cast on, because it seems like a very nice mindless knit, and I also have very luxurious yarn to knit with, and I also just really want to cast something on, was talked about in last week's episode. If you did not see it, no worries, we're going to talk about it now, but if you did see it, this will just be a slight repeat with some of my own plans for it. We have a very folded up pattern. This is going to be the Floats cowl from the Pearl Soho. It is a free pattern, which is super cool because yay for free patterns. It is a very oversized cowl, although you can change the size of it because you can add and subtract in multiples. I almost said multitudes, which wouldn't have made sense. Multiples of 4, because that is what the stitch pattern is, which is very nice. I really like it when patterns are very customizable. So I think this will be a super, super great cowl. It is knit with the Pearl Soho's yarn Season Alpaca, which is 100% baby alpaca. In other words, the softest yarn known to man. It is so amazing. On their website, I think they use the color Heirloom White. My mom and my sister and I will be using, dang it, I remember what it was. I put it on my Ravelry page. It's like lavender something, lavender moon. Does it say on the ball bands? Do I have the ball bands? Oh, the ball bands are in there. Dang it. Okay. Well, it's, like I said, ooh, that picks it up super well. It's the lightest purple possible. It's the lightest purple possible, but it is gorgeous. It's like a very dusty lilac-y purple with like a gray lilac-y purple. How many ways can we describe this color? It's very light. I'm super excited to knit with this. Again, it's 100% baby alpaca, and it's just so soft. And it also smells incredible. Last week I gave it a good whiff, and it was just so good because I hadn't seen or touched the yarn before, and I hadn't smelled it before, and I just love it so much. If you're not a knitter and you're watching this podcast, you might think I'm incredibly weird, which I don't really deny that. I do agree that smelling yarn can be kind of odd if you don't understand the magicalness of smelling yarn. But if you are a knitter, you get me. You understand what I'm talking about. There's just something about smelling yarn. It's like smelling books. Smelling books is very strange. Do they smell good? Yes, they smell amazing. Just like smelling yarn. Is it very odd? Yes, it's very strange. But it just smells so good. Oh, it just smells so sheepy. Which is not super descriptive if you haven't smelled yarn or a sweater before. I don't know. You wouldn't necessarily know what a sheep smelled like. So that's not super descriptive, but I don't know. It's very hard to describe the smell of wool or alpaca or yarn in general. Some yarns smell like they're yarn stores that they were bought from, which is a totally different smell and super wonderful as well because you might have good memories in that yarn store, and so it just brings back good memories. Some yarn stores just smell good because it's full of yarn, which therefore it smells good. This is very off topic. I was not planning to talk about smelling yarn, but it is a thing. If you were not aware that this was the thing, now you know, and if you see someone sniffing a ball of yarn or a skein of yarn or whatever, don't judge them. They're just enjoying. They're just enjoying the yarn. Let's not be judgy. This is not a this is not a podcast of judgment. We are very accepting here. Smell the yarn all you want. I just love it. So one thing that I have decided to change on mine, having looked at it more closely and looked at the other ones that have been knit up on the Ravelry project page, other people who have knit the same thing in the same yarn, I am going to be knitting on a much bigger needle. That is purely of my own personal preference. If you want to knit it on a smaller needle, that is super wonderful. If you don't, if you want to knit on one that's even bigger than the one that I've chosen, that's super cool too. I feel like it, like I said, it's very customizable. So the pattern calls for a size 4, US 4. I am not sure what that is in centimeters, millimeters, millimeters. But it's US size 4. I do know that much. Which my sister explained that the sample that was knit up at the store that she saw and got to experience was a very dense knit, which is super wonderful if you live in a cold climate, which, like we've said before, I do not. Except for tomorrow, which is going to be pretty cold in April, but I'm not, obviously I haven't knit it up yet. So, I'm going to be jumping all the way up to a size 7, which is a big jump. That is 4.5 millimeters, by the way. I do have that on the package. So that is really exciting. I like looser knit stuff in general, especially when it comes to neckwear. Unless I really, really like the way something looks that's very densely knit, it's probably going to be knit more loosely. But that is just my personal preference. I also just want it to be flowy because I love the drape of alpaca. I'm gonna put this down because I realize that is crinkly plastic. Apologies. I love the look of how alpaca knits up. I think it is a beautiful, beautiful fiber. And it looks totally different if it's knit densely or if it's knit loosely. Does that make sense? So, and I prefer it, especially in this case, for it to be knit loosely. So that's why I'm jumping all the way up to a size 7. Instead of knitting it on the size 4. I think I'm still gonna do the same size. I saw on the list of other people that have made it, there was one lady who cast on the same size or the same amount, which is quite extensive. 324 stitches, which is quite a lot. She cast on that amount on a size 6, and that still looked fine. I like the look of that. I do realize that knitting with a bigger needle, yarn amounts will be different. It might not be as thick, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know if I'll cast on the 324 amount because, like I said at the beginning, you can change it because you can cast on in multiples of 4. Again, I almost said multitudes. I don't know why. Multiples of 4. Because of the stitch pattern, you just chop it off every 4. So I might do that because I prefer thick, wide cowls opposed to long cowls. Does that make sense? I realize you can't see one of my hands because it's just off frame. But yes, I prefer thick cowls to long cowls. Where are my hands going? I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's why I'm going up to a bigger needle. That's why I might cast on fewer stitches. I just really want to show off the yarn as much as I can in a way that I think would show it off the best. This is not to say that knitting it on a size 4 is not showing it off, because it totally is. This yarn is truly incredible and will be amazing no matter what it is knit up in, regardless of the needle size. it will be beautiful. But to me, it is calling to be knit up on a size 7. So that's what I'm gonna do. It just smells so good. So yes, this is what I want to cast on once I finish that starting point wrap by Joji Locatelli. It's also living in this super cute Pearl Soho mini book baggy type thing. I think it's super adorable. My sister picked these up for my mom and herself and myself when she was there for a work trip. So thank you, Katie. So much fun. I am super excited about this. And I think it's just a very, again, it's very classic, it's very classy, it's a good staple cowl, I think, and it seems to be one of those types of stitch patterns that it looks super complicated, but it's not actually super complicated, which those are the best kind. And almost everybody that I saw on the project page list said that they had gotten lots of compliments on it, so again, sign of a good knit. I haven't knit it yet, but I would assume that I will definitely recommend this knit to you once I'm started with it and done with it. So, yay. The Floats cowl from Pearl Soho. Super awesome. So another thing that I want to talk about, and probably the last thing, is the baked item that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. If you're new, I love baking. It's just very soothing to me. It's kind of like knitting. It's just very relaxing, and then you get to enjoy something that you've made. People around you get to enjoy things that you've made, whether it's cookies or brownies or muffins or goodness knows what. So I really enjoy baking. I find random recipes on Pinterest, specifically Pinterest because there's the picture and then that's inspiring to make the item, or Instagram, that also. I like finding recipes on there and then I'll just try them. And yeah, scrolling back in my Pinterest recipe collection, which if you'd like to follow me on Pinterest, that's also another place you can follow me. That'll be linked in the show notes as well. I went back on my recipe board collection thing, which I've had for quite a while now, and because I was looking for a recipe or something fun to make for Easter, for my family, and just making a fun dessert, which I did find something that was super great. But I did find something else that caught my eye that I was just super inspired to make. And it might sound strange, but don't judge it quite yet until you've heard me talk about it. They're Earl Grey shortbread cookies. Now, I will say, if you are not a fan of the Earl Grey flavor, which is very bergamot-y, which I don't know what that flavor is, but, or is that a spice? I don't really know what a bergamot is or what bergamot is. But if you know what Earl Grey tea tastes like, if you don't like that taste, then you probably will not like these cookies. But I could see how it would be very easy to substitute Earl Grey or like a different herb or I don't know, something like that instead of Earl Grey. But the recipe, the pattern, the recipe was for Earl Grey. I do not remember what the website was called that I found this recipe on, but I will link it in the show notes, so if you want to check out the recipe, it'll be there for you to go check out. It was super simple. It's definitely one of the best shortbread recipes I have tried and tasted. It was super great. Only like 4 or 5 ingredients, which I think is super great. So, and they're very normal. You would have all of them on hand. And then you cut open a bag of Earl Grey and just throw the tea leaves into the dough and mix it up. And then you cut and you bake them, and then you're done. And it was super amazing. And it's just like, they also looked like the picture on the blog, or the pictures on the blog that I found the recipe. And I was like, yes, I have a win. This is so good. In the recipe, it does say that if you want a stronger or lesser flavor, you can add 1 to 2 bags. Because I do in fact love the taste of Earl Grey tea, I added 2 bags. I added 1 bag of Earl Grey and then 1 bag of Lady Grey, which is a more citrusy bergamot flavor, which I thought would be nice, especially for shortbread, because it would just kind of make it a little bit more fresh and zingy. I don't know, does that make sense? I don't know, it just seemed like a good idea. I don't know if you can actually taste the difference, but I think it tastes good. So if you want just 2 Earl Grey bags, Earl Grey and Lady Grey, try different teas. I don't know, I feel like chai tea might be a really fun thing to try if you like the flavor of chai. I'm not a super big fan of the flavor of chai, but that might be something fun to try. That rhymed. But yes, they were so incredible. I loved them. They were, I don't know why I sounded confused when I said that, but they're like the perfect tea time cookie because they're crunchy and they're like a little dry, but not too dry that's like disgusting, or like not good shortbread, but it's dry enough that it makes you want to drink more tea, and it's just so good. And then you have the Earl Grey flavor and it's just so amazing, and it was so easy and I loved it. I get very passionate about my baking, if you couldn't tell. So knitting, books, and baking. Also musicals. I get very passionate about those things. Like I said, the recipe, or the link to the recipe, will be definitely in the show notes, so if you want to try them out, for sure, definitely would recommend. I will definitely be making that in the future. I will probably also be making that shortbread recipe without the Earl Grey as well, just because it was such a good recipe. It was just so good. And I'm sure there are lots of shortbread recipes out there. You might have your favorite one. So you could take your favorite shortbread recipe and add Earl Grey to it if you wanted to. I'm sure that would be just fine. Make it your own. Just think about adding Earl Grey to something. That might be kind of fun. Oh, the possibilities. So this week I've talked about knitting, and I've talked about baking, and we've talked about smelling yarn, and lots of different stuff. But I think that is it for this week. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are new or returning, I really appreciate you being here and spending some time with me. And there's a car driving by right as I'm ending it. Like I said at the beginning, and like always, all my various social medias will be linked down below or on my blog, depending on where you are. There's Instagram, Facebook, Ravelry, and Twitter, and Goodreads and Pinterest if you'd like to follow those. But I'm most active on Instagram. By far, it is my favorite. Goodbye. Goodbye. Why are you doing this? Anyway, that is not relevant to this podcast. Throwback to the days where we were living in a different place, in a different apartment complex, and they always did yard work whenever I was recording. That is no more. We live in a different place, in a different apartment complex, so it's all good. Much better. So much better. I hope you guys had a wonderful Easter weekend. I hope you spent some time with family and that was super fun, or you just had a good time. I hope you have a wonderful coming weekend. I hope you had a wonderful week. If you have crafty plans, I hope they're successful. We are going to help out my in-laws this weekend with their house. They are still not in their house after Harvey flooded their house. They're still living in an apartment, but they're so close to being done, so we're gonna go and help them, try and speed along the process and help them be able to move in more quickly. So that is super exciting. That being said, knitting might not be super productive this weekend, but that is okay. That is fine. There's plenty of other times to knit. There's so many other times to knit. So that was very exciting. Like I said, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I guess I'll see you guys next week. Bye!